Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Pat's Pulpit pregame preview. Here to talk about Week 2 of the 2018 NFL season. My name is Rich Hill, and with me, as always, is my good friend Alec Shane. Alec, we have 1 week in the books. Season's well underway right now. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right, buddy. It's a beautiful September afternoon outside. I'm going to experience absolutely none of it because I will be inside for the entirety of today to an amazing slate of games. I don't think I've been as excited about an actual week 2 kind of slate in a really long time. A lot of great matchups all across the league. Highlights going to be, of course, Patriots, Jaguars at 4:25 today, but a couple of good early games too, Rich, I want to talk about before we get into that one.
Yeah, seriously, there's a lot of really good early games. And I don't think there's been as strong of a 1 p.m. slate in a really long time, especially when you look at what's going on in primetime for this night and tomorrow night. Much weaker. So we can go through what the games are going on at 1 p.m. because they should be going on at 8, both tonight and tomorrow night. Instead, we'll get the Giants and Cowboys on Sunday Night Football and the Seahawks and the Bears on Monday Night Football. Both probably going to be pretty yawners because none of those four teams are any good whatsoever. So let's go through the 1 p.m. games right now because there's a lot to like. And let's start with within the AFC East itself because we got a divisional game on our schedule. We got the Dolphins at the Jets at 1 p.m. Jets are coming off of a total romp of the Detroit Lions led by Matt Patricia. So they could be the real deal. They have a lot of upside. They probably have the most upside of any team outside of the Patriots inside the AFC East. And then you got the Dolphins, who are, the chocolate chip ice cream of the AFC East. They're totally fine. Maybe 7-9, 9-7. That's pretty much par for the course. So that they have a pretty low ceiling. What's your thought on that game?
Yeah, this is interesting because I feel like week 1 was not really indicative of how either team is going to be going forward. The Jets just destroyed the Lions. I don't see them playing at that high a level consistently throughout the year. And remember, the Dolphins-Titans game took about 7 hours due to all these rain delays and lightnings and whatnot. So that game never really had a chance to get a flow, momentum building. And I don't think really either team can hang their hat too much on what you saw last week between the Titans and the Dolphins. So this is a good AFC East matchup. I'm excited for the first one of the year between AFC East opponents. I think the Jets are maybe not legit and for real, but I think they are in better shape than maybe we gave them credit for. And since they're the home team today, I'm going with the Jets in a close one.
Yeah, it should be a pretty good game, too. I mean, I'm mostly intrigued to see if Sam Darnold is the real deal or not, because I like Quincy Enunwa as just a complete fantastic receiver. I don't even know if he's a wide receiver. Call him a tight end. Call him just a pass catcher out there. But they have a really good dynamic, and it was really showing in the week 1 opener. And they just have a lot of upside. I like what they've been doing on defense over the past couple of years. They've just been adding piece after piece. They've made the active decision to get rid of Muhammad Wilkerson. They didn't retain Sheldon Richardson, so they've rebooted it with Leonard Williams at the heart of their defense. And then they've made small upgrades at every other part. They have the good pieces. I'm interested to see how they work together. It's really all comes down to whether or not Sam Darnold is real or not. It's kind of like the 2009, 2010 Jets when they had Mark Sanchez leading the crew. However good this young USC quarterback performs for the Jets, that's as good and as far as they're going to go. And so Darnold had a good first game against Matt Patricia and the Detroit Lions defense. We should be familiar to how that kind of played out, knowing how Matt Patricia led the defenses for the Patriots against young quarterbacks. Always has done it this way. Let them take whatever they can. Don't allow them to get any home run shots. Expect that the young quarterback is going to make a mistake. They got a pick 6 out of it to open the game, and then he didn't make another mistake for the rest of it. And so will the Dolphins approach Sam Darnold that same way? I'm not sure. We'll get a really good sense of what Sam Darnold brings to the league after this 1 p.m. game. Another young quarterback that we will get a chance to look at is Buffalo Bills quarterback Josh Allen, who should get the start against the Los Angeles Chargers, also at 1 p.m. The Bills were easily the worst team in the NFL last week when they got demolished 47-3 by the Baltimore Ravens. Chargers also had a disappointing loss against the Kansas City Chiefs. They're always never quite over the cusp. That's been the Chargers' issue forever. They've just never gotten over the hump. They have to get past the Bills. They should be able to. If not, that's another cause for concern. Alec, what are you looking for in this Bills game?
Yeah, I mean, the good thing for the Buffalo Bills in week 2 is there's literally nowhere to go but up. Like, you just can't start worse than you started last week. New quarterback, reason to be optimistic about him. Even if he struggles a bit, he's not going to be as bad as they was last week. It's funny because the Bills, I feel like they took such a step back in the offseason that I just don't see I look at the roster from top to bottom. Their O-line is a mess. Their receivers aren't that good. Their quarterback's a huge question mark. Their defense is a little bit depleted. And they're going up against a Chargers team, as you said, just can never quite get it together. And it makes no sense because on paper, the Chargers teams are always good, and they can never seem to get out of the 8-8, 7-9, 9-7 range. Chargers should win today. They actually gave the Chiefs a pretty good game last week. I think it was 38-28, a little closer than the score indicated. They had a chance toward the end there. I think Chargers pull this one out, and the Bills are in a very deep hole to start the year.
Yeah, absolutely. The Bills are who we thought they were. That last year was a fluke where they made the postseason. They had one of the worst point differentials of any team to make the playoffs, which just suggests that it was a completely unsustainable way to make the playoffs. They are, and maybe they're not as bad as they showed last week. They are a bottom 10 team in the NFL. They should be crushed by the Chargers, and that probably means they'll beat the Chargers because they are the Chargers. So there are a lot of other games going on at 1 p.m., a lot of good ones. You got Eagles at the Buccaneers. You got Chiefs at the Steelers, Colts at Washington, Browns at Saints, Vikings at Packers, Panthers at Falcons, Texans at Titans. A lot of really good games. If you had to pick one of them to watch, which one would you choose and why?
The Patriots fan in me would probably pick Steelers-Chiefs because the Steelers are a perennial rival. The Chiefs are a perennial rival. But I'm sorry, I have Cleveland Browns fever, Rich. I want to see the Browns Saints. I want to see this game because the Saints lost to a Ryan Fitzpatrick-led Buccaneers team, which made no sense. And then the Cleveland Browns-Pittsburgh Steelers tie that represented Cleveland's best start since 2004. These are two teams that really kind of coming off a surprising ending, I should say, to their week one game. I want to see if the Browns are not for real, but can they hang with the Saints, or is that was a total fluke and the Browns are back down to the bottom? So I cannot wait for that game. It's ridiculous, but what can I say?
This game can only go one of two directions. It could be a really close, slug it out, 17-14 kind of game, or the Saints are going to win by 40. There's no way that it goes any other of those two directions. That's how it's going to go. I'm really hoping that the Browns get their first win, get off to their best start in franchise history or whatever. As Bill Belichick was the head coach in 93. I think that was the last time they started 2-0.
1-0-1, Rich. That's what it would be. It would be 1-0-1.
They wouldn't have started as well. Yeah,
right.
The best start since Bill Belichick.
There you go.
And I'm here for that too. I'm really excited to see what the Browns can be. They cut Josh Gordon this morning. That was the huge news of the morning. Josh Gordon is available. Of course, big question on everyone's mind is, are the Patriots going to get Josh Gordon? Apparently, as soon as the Browns made the announcement, yeah, we're going to release Josh Gordon, they got like 5 or 6 phone calls being like, wait, we'll trade for him. We want him. We'll take him. And then the Browns are like, well, we don't want him in the AFC because we don't want him to be the reason we don't make the Super Bowl. And it's like, okay, sure, Cleveland. Have fun with that. But speaking of receivers, Josh Gordon is available. So is Dez Bryant. Apparently, Patriots are considering bringing back Kenny Britt. They're working him out on Monday. Jordan Matthews is also in the area working out with Julian Edelman. The whole crew could get back together at some point because Edelman's going to return. Patriots have been churning that offensive side of the ball. I think this is a good time to pivot to talk about the Patriots and the Jaguars game, Alec, because there's a lot of question marks on both sides, especially with the Patriots offense with Rex Burkhead battling concussion. He could play. He's going to be a game-time decision. Sony Michel is expected to play. Jacob Hollister is expected to make his season debut. There's a lot of issues with that Patriots' health on their offensive side. Jacksonville has some issues of their own. Leonard Fournette might not play. He's going to be a game-time decision as well. What's your initial read on this game?
Yeah, it's funny. I feel like this is a really good example of strength against weakness and strength against weakness on both sides of this ball here on both teams. The Patriots offense that we saw last week against the Houston Texans, I don't think is anything close to what they will be come week 8 or 9. And had these teams played in week 8 or 9, it'll be a very different game than what we're about to watch, I think. But right now, the Patriots receivers are still not having trouble getting separation. Their routes taking a little bit more time to develop than I would like to see. And going up against the Jacksonville secondary, that is fierce, much better than Houston's. They have a disgusting defensive line as well. Marcus Cannon is out today, I believe, which means Adrian Waddle has a very big task ahead of him with Calais Campbell and whoever else is on that side of the line if Campbell can go. So that's a very big weakness for the Patriots, going up against very big strength for the Jaguars. On the flip side, as you mentioned, Fournette's a game-time decision. He's their best offensive player. Blake Bortles is Blake Bortles. And the Pats defense looked great last week in stretches. They were good in the middle of the field. The secondary looked good. And I feel like the secondary of the Patriots significantly outmatches the receivers on Jacksonville right now. So I'll be very curious to see how each team approaches the other offensively and how the defensive coordinators can limit those weaknesses and exploit them.
Yeah, absolutely. And you compare the strengths of both the Patriots and the Jaguars offenses right now, or not even just the strength, it's just how the rosters are composed. You have the Jaguars wide receivers. You have Keelan Cole, who is, and have you heard of him? Probably not. Jaguars fans love him. I would say he's probably their equivalent to a Philip Dorsett, where they're just like really expecting him to break out. He's probably going to finish the season with like 550 yards. Who knows? But they're expecting him to just do some great things. Got Dede Westbrook, who has gone, he's boom and bust every now and then, but he has a very productive track record. And then Dante Moncrief, who's formerly of the Indianapolis Colts. They have some pieces there, but when you compare that to the Patriots wide receivers of Chris Hogan, Philip Dorsett, and Cordarrelle Patterson, you can throw in Corey Coleman in there if we feel like it. Who has the edge there? I don't know. I mean, if you switch those Jaguars receivers over to the Patriots, I would expect them, all things equal, to be relatively similar from a production standpoint. And if Leonard Fournette can't go, you got TJ Yeldon against a Rex Burkhead, Sony Michel, and James White backfield of the Patriots. Edge goes to the Patriots in my mind, but I think TJ Yeldon is a very solid player, and the gap is not that great, given only one running back will be on the field at a given point in time. And then you go to the tight end spot where Rob Gronkowski has a clear edge over Austin Seferian-Jenkins of the Jaguars at tight ends. And biggest, most important position of all, quarterback, Tom Brady has a huge edge over Blake Bortles. There's no question there. And so when you're comparing the offenses of both sides, I know they're not facing off head to head, but just from a quality standpoint, edge goes to the Patriots because they have Tom Brady and Rob Gronkowski. Jaguars, they got a lot of B-level players, not to, insult or anything like that. They were the AFC Championship last year, but they are definitely a level below the Patriots offense. But the same thing could be said about the defenses of both sides.
No, it's very true. And especially if you look at the way these two teams played last time they met in January of 2017, very high percentage throws from Blake Bortles, a lot of running the ball, keeping Tom Brady off the field, long sustained drives, and the defense was stifling, and they didn't really allow time for the receivers to get the roots to develop. Tom Brady was throwing a lot quicker than he needed to, and it was just a very well-coached game plan for about 3.5 quarters for Jackson before they decided to get a little less conservative, and they gave the Patriots a chance to get the ball back and win the game and go to the Super Bowl from that. Do you take anything from last time these two teams met, Rich, or are those two completely different teams, very different games, and not much we can really glean from that last matchup?
One thing I will definitely take is Corey Grant, running back for the Jaguars. I believe he had 59 yards receiving for the Jaguars. They used him on wheel routes. They used him out of the backfield. They wanted to isolate him against these Patriots linebackers, and I guarantee they will try and test him again. They will absolutely try and use Corey Grant and his speed, especially with or if Leonard Fournette is sidelined. That means that there will be more opportunities for Grant to be on the field. I think he only had 2 yards rushing, and so he was doing most of his damage as a receiver in the open field. But that's why my X factor is going to be related to last year's AFC Championship game. It's going to be Kyle Van Noy, because what the Jaguars like to do is they like to isolate the Patriots linebackers in coverage against these running backs because it's the easier throw for Blake Bortles. He's not going to challenge Stephon Gilmore. He's not going to challenge Eric Rowe with whoever is going out up the sidelines. He's going to try and make it easier, try and just push everything down the field and take the easy yards and start over again. He's going to use the running backs a lot. TJ Yeldon is also a very, very competent receiver. He's a very good one. I think he'd be excellent in the Patriots offensive system. Kyle Van Noy will be on the outside. He will likely be tasked with covering Corey Grant if he tries to escape towards the right side of the field. Dante Hightower, Juwan Bentley would probably be asked to go to the other direction of it. Kyle Van Noy has to do a good job of covering Corey Grant. He cannot allow a single reception of more than 20 yards. That's not the case of what they did against Grant last year. He has to do better. So Kyle Van Noy and his performance is going to be my X factor, with the condition that if I were Brian Flores and Bill Belichick, I would probably ask Patrick Chung to cover the running backs out of the backfield, because that'd be a matchup I think would be more favorable, especially with Fournette. If he is sidelined, there's less of a size advantage for that Jaguars rushing attack, and I would trust Patrick Chung to be able to hold his own against a TJ Yeldon or a Corey Grant more than I would against a Leonard Fournette.
Yeah, I agree with that. I also think that Chung is not as necessary as a safety help kind of player based on the receiver secondary matchup that we have as well. So that's a good one. I like the fact that Chung is available. I mean, a Van Noy-Chung combination if the running backs really start hitting the Patriots hard. I'm going to go in the interior defensive line and go with Danny Shelton today as my X factor. I feel like the Jaguars, they're going to be successful, which they very well can be. They're going to have to run the ball a lot, kind of mirror their drives of the AFC Championship game. Blake Bortles, as you mentioned, is not Tom Brady. He's not the guy you put the game on his back. And if he can do a lot of running the ball and a lot of high percentage throws, it's going to be a long day for the Patriots. But Danny Shelton's a really big kind of gap space eating defensive tackle, defensive end, defensive lineman, and he can really get in there and make the running game very hard to do. So hopefully Danny Shelton and maybe the combination of Malcolm Brown have a really good day clogging that middle up, forcing runs to the outside where guys like Van Noy and Jawan Bentley, who's doing really well, can stop that happening.
That will be very important, especially for that defensive front to have a rebound game, because they were pretty underwhelming against the Houston Texans. They were picking the Texans last week with Lamar Miller were picking up 4, 5, 6 yards at a clip pretty easily. And that was partially with Danny Shelton out there, but also with Brown. Lawrence Guy had a great game. But the Patriots will have to protect Adam Butler and make sure that he doesn't get exploited the same way in week 2 that he was exploited in week 1, where the Texans were just very happy to run directly at Adam Butler and expect their offensive linemen just to blow them out of the gap. Jaguars will have a similar strength on their offensive line. They've invested a lot of money in there with Brandon Linder at center, Norwell at guard, an early draft pick, and AJ Cann at the other guard position. So they have a lot of talent on that offensive line, and that will be a definite battle. Flipping it to the other side of the ball, though, you have this Jaguars, this defense, as you were talking about. What's the matchup that you see that's going to happen between the Patriots offense and the Jaguars defense that you think will be the most important?
Well, if Marcus Cannon is out, which he is, that means Adrian Waddle is in there at right tackle. The majority of the pressures Tom Brady saw last week against Houston came when Waddle was on the field. J.J. Watt's first ever career brush of Tom Brady's jersey came against Adrian Waddle. And Calais Campbell is 6'8". He's 300 pounds. He moves all over the line, and I can see that being a very long day for Adrian Waddle or Marcel Darius. There's a lot of mean men on that front of that line, and while I like David Andrews and I like Joe Thuney and I like Trent Brown, I worry about Adrian Waddle against whoever lines up the other side of him, because that will be a very concerning thing to see if Calais Campbell starts running him over. I don't know how really deep they are at right tackle with Cannon out.
Yeah, my actual favorite fact coming out of week 1 comes from that Jaguars victory over the New York Giants, because as you said, Calais Campbell is 6'8", 350 pounds or something like that. He was talking about Patriots left tackle Trent Brown saying, he's bigger than I am, and that never happens. And Eric Flowers, offensive tackle of the New York Giants, when he was just completely taken to the cleaners by Calais Campbell, after the game, he said, I thought, I was surprised because I thought he was more of a speed rusher as opposed to a power guy. And in my mind, what film review are you doing, Eric Flowers, that you think that a 6'8", 350-pound person is a speed guy? Or what film are you watching where he is a speed guy? And then what can you do? At 350 pounds of speed, you can't stop that. You can't stop that. So I agree. You look at this Jaguars defensive front. They got a lot of talent with Marcel Darius and Calais Campbell, as you said. But Malik Jackson is another defensive tackle that they have. Came over from the Denver Broncos a few years ago. He's always given the Patriots some trouble. And then Yannick Ngakoue, their pass rusher on the outside. They have an early draft pick in Dante Fowler as well. They have a whole host of talent that can just really get after the quarterback. Not with their speed, although Ngakoue can do it with his speed, but with their power. And historically, that has always been the issue with the Patriots' interior line. Pointing the finger at Joe Thuney and David Andrews, left guard and center, is that they're pretty good with their technical ability to counter speed rushers. They get walked back into the pocket without much trouble by these big power guys, and that's what Marcel Darius is going to do. Calais Campbell could do that if he gets moved to the inside. I'm not sure where he'll be placed against this offensive line. There will be plenty of opportunities for the Jaguars to really get after the Patriots. I would expect, due to this strength of this Jaguars defensive front, as well as their linebackers, with Miles Jack and Telvin Smith both being fantastic sideline to sideline coverage guys, they're able to stop the run. This defensive front is not friendly two running backs. And so my X factor of the game for the Patriots is pretty easy. It's going to be Rob Gronkowski. He's going to have an outstanding game because I don't expect much out of the Patriots receivers against Jalen Ramsey and AJ Bouye. And so Rob Gronkowski is going to have to carry this offense. Patriots aren't going to have those swing passes out of the backfield to the running backs like they had against the Houston Texans. And so Gronk up the seam is going to be the cornerstone of this New England offense.
I love Gronk up the seam. We always do. My X factor on offense would actually be James Devlin. He has emerged,
I like it.
He has emerged as a legit receiving threat based on week one. He had 4 catches, I think, last week, including a couple of first down conversions. And I see him as a good kind of extra tight end, extra lineman, maybe leave him in for blitz pickup. Usually blitz pickup isn't quite his thing. He usually crashes through the gap and leaves an opening for the running back. But Sonny Michel, I have not seen him pick up a single blitz in the NFL. I don't know if I trust him yet to pick up a blitz when Tom Brady reads it. So I see him relying a little more on maybe James Devlin, who's a bigger guy, got that huge neck roll he can work with to stay home, pick up the Miles Jack blitzes, pick up the corner guys, maybe help Adrian Waddle on a chip, and keep Tom Brady upright. And maybe he's your outlet receiver because people tend to forget about him. Not enough game tape on Devlin just yet. Is like that massive receiving threat out of the backfield. So maybe he'll bust one out today.
Yeah, so the start of Devlin season. He's finally going to break out at this point of his career. One last question for you before we head on to our predictions. Corey Coleman is on the roster. It's too early for us to know our inactives. Do you expect him to play? And if so, in what role?
If he plays, I'd be amazed if he saw more than 5 or 6 snaps and maybe 1 target. I just don't think he's learned the system enough yet. He's not really incorporated in the offense enough yet. And as I mentioned during our podcast and whatnot, it's always very hard for any receiver to come into an offense mid-season and pick up the offense. You see all the time these players come in, they do okay because Tom Brady's the best quarterback of all time, but they're never these game-changing receivers. And I don't see Corey Coleman being that this season. I'd love to see him pick that up and prove me wrong. And I guess Deion Branch is the last guy that came in mid-season and picked it up, but he cheated because he had it before. So maybe I'm wrong here, but I don't think Corey Coleman will be a big factor until late this year.
Gotcha. I'm pretty solid with that one too. I don't expect him to really contribute, if at all. I could see the team, when Julian Edelman returns, Coleman getting bounced, getting pushed to the practice squad. That would be my expectation for what would happen if they keep him around. This will and should be a big game for Chris Hogan. He needs to emerge. He needs to do something. If not, Philip Dorsett. The Patriots need at least one receiver to have a 50-yard day if they're going to put up more than 15 points against this fierce Jaguars defense. So got a lot to look forward to. Alec, let's get to our predictions. What happened in our first week of predictions? Who gets to go first?
Let's see what we got here. I had the Patriots winning 24-20 by 1 score. You had them winning 32-17. You are closer to the final score for the Patriots, but I got the Texans right, and I was only 3 points off for the Patriots, so I guess I go first today.
All right.
Off to a good start. 1-0 in the prediction battle this year. This is really tough for me to pick, honestly, because I feel like this is one of those games that has this is our week 2 Super Bowl vibe in Jacksonville. Miles Jack's on record saying this is the most important game of my entire life. Week 2 is never the most important game of anyone's entire life. Jaguars really need this game. Losing twice back-to-back and disappointing factors is really important. And I think that if this was a later game in the year, week 7, week 8, week 12, whatever it is, I'd pick differently. But I just don't think the Patriots offense is quite there yet. And I think the Jacksonville Jaguars defense is better than the Patriots offense right now. They're going to have a really hard time moving the ball. Points are going to be an absolute premium. And maybe it'll be like a turnover that Blake Bortles has that they return for a touchdown or something like that. But barring like some kind of defensive points or special teams points, I don't see the Patriots scoring more than, say, maybe 16 points today. So I'm going Jacksonville 24, Patriots 16.
Wow. All right. Picking the Jaguars to win here. Well, I was expecting this to be a close game no matter what. Patriots are on the road. It's going to be hot and humid. Jaguars will be in their element. They are fired up. This, as you said, is definitely their Super Bowl of the season. I just have such a tough time. Jaguars have never beaten Tom Brady in his entire career. I know that history doesn't really fully apply, but when history includes Blake Bortles, are you going to pick Blake Bortles over Tom Brady? I have a really tough time doing that. I expect this to be a super low scoring game, a super close game. I'm going to go Patriots win this one 17-14.
17-14. That's a good prediction. And again, it's games like this also where the Patriots just blow the doors off Jacksonville, right? Because everyone's hyping it up. We're talking how close it's going to be. The Jaguars are playing out of their minds. Everyone's excited about it. have their Letterman jackets on, Houston Texans style, and then the Patriots come in and they hang 40 on them. So I would love to be wrong about this one. Here's hoping you're wrong about it as well, because like a 36-10 blowout. I'd love to see that. But this definitely, I have a feeling, regardless of the final score today, these teams will probably meet again in the postseason.
Oh, absolutely. And this should be a good game. It's too early to say that this is going to be how the season plays out. But it's a good time to get to see how everyone is really producing together. I'm really excited to see our first look of Sony Michel, our second look at Philip Dorsett and this Patriots offense. We're going to be playing a very good defense. So whatever they're able to produce, cool. I'm looking forward to it. Alec, until next time, you have a good one.
You too, man. Enjoy the game.
Later.